Hey, friends, welcome back to the LV Parents Podcast. My name is Adam, and I will be host for this series of content. We've been unpacking this whole idea of the phases of development in the life of a child. And today, we're going to be unpacking the middle school phase, or maybe you may call it the hot Cheetos phase, or where's my backpack phase, or wait, when did I become embarrassing phase? Now, whether you have a nervous sixth grader, a confident seventh grader, or independent almost high schooler in your house, we want you to know that the middle school phase is pretty awesome. Yeah, you heard me right. It's actually awesome. Because as a parent, you maybe have heard it's just a phase at least once. And usually the word phase in the sentence means a season or a stage that a kid is in that we look forward to being over. And kind of like we're saying, it's just a phase, but don't worry about it, it'll be over soon. But what if we're missing the best part? What if each stage of development is actually an opportunity and not just an obstacle? Because here's what I mean. When we define phase as a specific time frame in a kid's life where you can leverage seeing opportunities, is exactly that. Now, if you have a middle schooler or a junior higher or a preteen, whatever you like to call it in your household, you may have noticed they don't talk a lot, or actually they actually never stop talking, but they also forget things all the time. It's just a hot mess. But maybe they're constantly leave you wondering, what were you thinking? And that's just because they're middle schoolers. Middle schoolers don't think like little kids anymore because they're not little kids. And they don't think like high schoolers because they're not high schoolers yet. Let me give you an example. In the preteen years, the teenage brain is completely rewiring. And by the time they reach puberty, they will have gained over 40,000 new neural connections. Some of those new connections will help them develop the skill of thinking from someone else's perspective for the very first time, having that empathy muscle really grow. And having that ability is great, but like all new skills, they need some coaching or practice. It's also fascinating that even with the 40,000 new connections in the brain, they don't get to keep them all. And during the middle school years, the brains will begin to process all kinds of information and actually start pruning some of those connections. And those connections will ultimately die out. So you may be thinking, why is my middle schooler forgetting so many things? Because ultimately, they probably did. Now let's talk about the way middle schoolers think. Middle schoolers, they think a lot like engineers. They like to solve problems by connecting concepts together like building blocks. And just like the engineer builds one idea off another with new concepts, two parts of a bridge, a middle schooler is constantly making new connections. That's why at this phase, it's important to break things down. When an idea has layers or complexity, it can be helpful to break it down into the simplest building blocks and connect them one by one. So whether you're telling a story about your family or giving them instructions of how to unload the dishwasher, it can be helpful to give them one piece of information at a time. All right, here's another big idea. Middle schoolers are motivated by acceptance. That means they are constantly asking themselves who likes them, who they like, and where they fit in a group. And you probably have noticed that friendships and feelings at this stage is a big deal. So, as a parent or caregiver, one of the kindest things you can do is to give them a sense of acceptance and belonging at home. That means encouraging them, acknowledging their growth and successes, and avoiding making jokes at their expense, at least for now. Here are some other examples for you to build that acceptance muscle in the home. Middle schoolers also have big emotions. So when it comes to their feelings, try to normalize them and how they're feeling. Let them know that they're not the only one who's ever felt that way. And also help them think about who cares about them, by showing interest in what they're interested in. So it could be the apps they like or the movies or the hobbies that they enjoy. It may not be your first choice, but remember every compliment counts. Even if you don't act like that, you'd be shocked at how much it matters to your middle schooler when you compliment them. And lastly, and this is a big one, it's important to recruit other adults that will show up consistently and love your middle schooler, just as they are. When other adults help your middle schooler feel valued or accepted, they're hardwiring into the developing brain a sense of identity, belonging, and purpose. And when those other welcoming, safe adults happen to be at your church or your community center or on your kid's sports team, they're helping your middle schooler remember what we often teach at the preschool phase, that God's family is a safe place with safe people. Now, listen, as a parent, I want you to know that you're making history each and every week. And even though your middle schooler may not say so, they need you more than ever. And you only have 52 weeks of knowing your sixth, seventh, or eighth grader at this phase before they move on to the next stage of development. So make each week count. And remember, it's just a phase, so don't miss it.